So this 18th Sutra of the Samadhipada of the Yoga Darshana, Maharshi Patanjali explains the depths of Asampragnata Samadhi. After describing what is the Sampragnata, this is the next sutra. It says that Virama Pratyayabhyasa Purvaha Samskara Shesho Nyaha. Virama Pratyayabhyasa Purva Samskara Shesho Anyaha. Virama Pratyayabhyasa Purvaha Samskara Shesho Anyaha. Virama Pratyaya Abhyasa Purvaha Samskara Sheshaha Anyaha. These are the three words which have their own adjectives and the meanings, which will give a clear indication of the experience of Asampragnata Samadhi. Though the name Asampragnata is not mentioned, but it is suggestive and confirmed by the last word Anyaha, not the Sampragnata, that is Asampragnata. The word meanings go like this: the Virama. Virama is break, an interval, cessation, stop. Virama. Cessation, a break, an interval, a stop. Pratyaya, as we already knew that pratyaya means an experience or an object. Experience of an object or just an object or just an experience, that is pratyaya. Abhyasa is a repeated practice. Purvaha is preceded or accompanied by. Preceded or accompanied by. Samskara is a very common, well-known word. Samskara is impression, effect, tendencies. Shesha is residue, remnant. Anya is the other. So, Virama Pratyaya Abhyasa Purvaha Samskara Sheshaha. So, there is a Virama in Pratyaya. The description of this particular state, as I repeat, though it is not named Asampragnata, is the stage after Asmita, because it is Anya, the other, after the Sampragnata, still further, still deeper. So this stage after Asmita, really speaking, with all practical implications, we cannot describe it. It is indescribable because there is no Asmita. Though it is indescribable, it has to be pointed, it has to be described, it has to be known, so that the people will be aware that there is a stage like this. There is a thing which exists like this. And that stage, a level, a space which exists like this, which cannot be described, that is Asampragnata. And Virama Pratyaya is actually a Nirodha, because Pratyaya is not there. And along with that, vritti also is not there. So virama pratyaya is actually nirodha it is. Virama is a break, an interval in pratyaya. Pratyaya is an object. When the mind is deeply focused, highly concentrated, and deeply involved in the meditation of any object, and all the contents and the constituents and all the gunas connected to that particular object, as it goes deeper and deeper, and unfoldment keeps coming, and as unfoldment keeps happening, at one particular stage to the further stage, still further stage, though it is continuous, it drops one pratyaya and experience gets into the second and another pratyaya. One pratyaya is dropped, left over, leaves over, and before taking over, entering into the other pratyaya, that gap is the virama. For all practical knowledge, we can just hint ourselves that it is the gap between two thoughts. Though thoughts are continuous, the flow of the mind is continuous, it seems, but between the continuity, between the two, at any level, at any stage, at any particular space or the time, between two thoughts, there must be a gap, and there is a gap. That is the virama pratyaya. Virama of the pratyaya it is. And that difference between virama pratyaya and vritti nirodha, there are two things. Vritti nirodha and virama pratyaya. There is a slight difference, very slight difference. And the difference is, in virama pratyaya, the gap is there between two pratyayas. In vritti nirodha, the vrittis have been stopped. So in a way to understand, just or hinting to understand, it is a partly nirodha, partial nirodha, before it catches the other pratyaya. Similarly, to understand the word anya, remnant of what? Shesha, samskara, anya. So that remnant, residue, it can be taken as a residue, it can be taken as a remnant, but samskara shesha it is. The leftover samskaras, residue of the samskaras, residue of the tendencies and the impressions, all samskaras have been removed, completely removed, but some last bit is there. It is something like when you clean our rooms, we clean, but at the end some very small little a bit will be left over. That is the samskara shesha, the last bit. Samskaras have gone, but they are in the form of a seed form, bija rupa. That's why in many of the shastras and in the sadhakas it is said that the seeds which are burnt, the seeds which are fried, they will not germinate. Really, the samskaras are in the seed form. Last, the remnant is left over. A very beautiful example is given in the commentaries of Adi Shankara, that when you burn a stick or a rope or any object, it is burnt, but the ash will be in that shape. means if a stick is burnt, the stick is gone, stickness is gone, but the ash will be in that same form. Samskara Shesha is something like that. Samskaras are in seed form, unexpressed form. All vrittis have gone, all functional modifications have gone, but still it is in a seed form. It is not vritti. Vritti means when it becomes functional, active, modified, but it is in the seed form. A tree rises from a seed, and that is the samskara shesha. So, samskara shesha is the absence of mental modifications, and its practice consists in repetition, abhyasa, over and over again. And based on that abhyasa, a continuous, regular abhyasa, regular practice precedes this samskara shesha. So to have samskara shesha, or for the removal of all the samskaras, for just a little bit is available, for that state to come, unexpressed state of the samskaras, there is a abhyasa purva. It is abhyasa is very much necessary for that, and that is why very important dimension is told here. And that shesha is out of the dropping of the pratyaya of the previous practice. And traditionally, the technical words are used here. It is virama pratyaya, or a virama before a pratyaya comes. So basically, virama pratyaya means cessation of pratyaya itself. There is no pratyaya there. There is no object. There is no experience. There is no experience of the object. And there is no object to be experienced. And that is the state of virama, and that is technically named as virama pratyaya. Similarly, abhyasa purva means preceded by practice. Practice of what? Practice of holding the mind in the seed form. And this phrase therefore serves to emphasize the fact that asampragnata samadhi can be practiced only after the prolonged practice of sampragnata samadhi, abhyasa purvaha, a long practice of sampragnata samadhi, that last pratyaya is given up. And there is no change in this condition of the mind except disappearance of pratyaya. That's why the difference between sampragnata and the asampragnata is the difference of existence of pratyaya. In sampragnata there is pratyaya, the experience or the object. But in asampragnata there is no experience, there is no object. But if there is no experience, how do we know that there was an experience? That is the beauty of asampragnata samadhi. The bow and the arrow type. Every successive asampragnata samadhi is a precursor for the nirbija samadhi, which alone gives an abstracted vision of the reality. That we must be very clear in understanding. Swami Vivekananda beautifully describes again this asampragnata samadhi in his own very eloquent way. Swamiji, I quote Swamiji, there is another samadhi which is attained by the constant practice of cessation of all mental activity, in which the chitta retains only the unmanifested expressions. In asampragnata samadhi, where the mind has succeeded only in quelling the waves in the chitta and holding them down, they are still there in the form of tendencies. samskaras, and these tendencies will become waves again when the time comes. But when you have destroyed all these tendencies, almost destroyed the mind, then it has become seedless, nirbija. There are no more seeds in the mind out of which to manufacture again and again this plant of life, this ceaseless round of birth and death. How beautifully Vivekananda says that to be out of this cycle of birth and death is possible. It is in our hand. It is in our own hand in this life alone. This life alone, at this moment alone. And we have the tools to handle, tools to achieve. This is one of the most important suggestion, dimension, contribution of the Yoga Darshana, that the beauty of life, the worth of life, the value of life is in our hands. It is we who are the molders. It is we who are the sculptors of our life. It molds as we wish. So the ultimate, the total chitta vritti nirodha is in our hand. When all the mental processes have stopped and only samskaras remain, means samskaras are not in the active state. The samadhi of the mind, thus inhibited, is the asamprajnata. The means to it is the higher detachment. And let us remember, no meditation of an object be a means there. So the meditations which we make on the idea of stopping are absent there. But there is a state like that can be affirmed only by an experience, and because we are experiencing it, so we are able to understand it, we are able to feel it, and we are able to have it. Though it is a void of an object, but the practice of this finally leads to that particular state where there are absence of the objects. And that is the asamprajnata samadhi. We need not be afraid and feel that it is not possible. It is something very beyond, unable. No, it is not that. We are experiencing that. Many times we pass through it. Many times we feel that joy, that experience of absolute object and experienceless state. That is samprajnata samadhi. And then further into it, Patanjali explains various other dimensions of the further processes involved in that, which we shall see in our continuity of understanding Yoga Sutras. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.